Hi, this is Ms. Perez, and this is a video for combining functions, practice problem 2. So let's get right into it. The function f describes the number of oranges on a tree, on tree A after t months. The function g describes the number of oranges on tree B after t months. So let's think about what that information means. So function f, which is here, oops, let me grab a pencil. Function f, they're saying, describes oranges on a tree, on tree A. So let's just say this is tree A. Okay, and function g describes the number of oranges on tree B. So these functions, and you really want to take the time to consider what they're talking about. They're talking about the number of oranges. So I think taking some time and thinking about what the question's asking about is really important. So just, and it's pretty simple, number of oranges. So this equation, this expression right here is telling you how many oranges are on tree A. This expression right here is telling you how many oranges are on tree B. Okay, so that's just a number. Could be 5, 10, 20. All right, so let's look at the question now. Find function h such that h of t equals f of t minus g of t. Now, I've said this before, and hopefully this is helpful. I don't want to confuse you by giving you these make-believe scenarios, but again, sometimes just giving values to these abstract expressions can be really helpful. So let's say find function h such that, okay, so f of t, what is f of t? Well, f of t is is the number of oranges on tree A, right? Number of oranges on tree A. So let's say that's 25. Let's give that a value, 25 oranges, right, on tree A. So it's f of t. We'll put this up here. F of t is just the number of oranges on tree A. And let's pretend, right, this is hypothetical, let's pretend that's just 25. Say we know how many oranges were on tree A. It was 25, okay? So I'm just writing different ways to write what f of t could be, okay? It's very hypothetical. And they're saying, okay, find function h such that f of t minus g of t. Well, what is g of t? Let's look up here. G of t is this, right? Or let's go back a little bit. G of t is the number of oranges on tree B, right? So minus number of oranges from B, right? And let's pretend that's, 20. So really what you're doing is you're just subtracting one function from the other. So it's nothing crazy. I know these notations can be a little funky to look at or a little intimidating, but don't let that intimidate you, okay? We are talking about just some value, number of oranges, which is just some number. We just don't know it yet. So again, I'm not trying to confuse you any further. Sometimes I think if you think about it in a numerical value, it comes off a little bit easier, hopefully anyway. So anyway, let me rewrite this. So this is f of t minus g of t, right? That's what we're trying to find. We're trying to find h such that this right here. Okay, so now we're just going to plug in values. What is f of t? Well, f of t is this. So let's just plug that in. And again, if you get something like this on your mastery test, really just follow these steps. Whatever f of t is, write it in its entirety. F of t is 2 times 3 to the t. A lot of times I see students kind of leave things off or, not write it exactly how it's seen right here. Things don't magically disappear. So make sure you're writing it exactly how you see it. So f of t is 2 times 3 to the t power. All right, now minus g of t. Well, what is g of t? It's this whole thing right here. So we need to write that whole thing exactly the way we see it. So that's 2 times 2 to the t power. Okay. Now, if you notice over here, we don't see that. Look at our answers. We don't have that anywhere here. We didn't do anything wrong, we're just not finished. So this is where, again, the GC, if you watched my practice problem 1, I had told you you should be pretty familiar with what GCF means, the greatest common factor. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at these two terms. Again, terms are separated by pluses and minuses. So in here, we only have 2 terms. You go, wait, Miss Perez, there's like way more things. So there's, there's a 2, there's a 3, there's another 2, there's another 2. Again, be familiar with your vocabulary. Terms are separated by pluses and minuses. So there's not more than 2, there's only 2 terms. 1, 2. Okay. So we're going to look at our 2 terms and find the GCF. What is the GCF? The greatest common factor. Okay. So the greatest common factor, in simplest terms, to solve these problems you have on your mastery test, just look at this front number, right? Look at this front number in front of the parentheses. What multiples do they have in common? And if you're not that great at multiples, that's okay. Write them out if you have to. So 2. The only multiples of 2 is 2 times 1. Here again, the only multiples of 2 is 2 times 1. So their greatest common multiple is 2. Okay. So if the GCF equals 2, what we're going to do is we're going to pull out a 2. Okay, I say pull out a 2. And what it means is we're going to, essentially divide by 2. When we do that, this 2 doesn't magically disappear. It gets pulled out and gets put on the outside of the parenthesis. Okay, and then what we do is we actually do this division. And again, if you're not great with it, go ahead and grab a calculator. Nothing wrong with that. And then just do that. So what's 2 divided by 2? Well, that's 1. And everything else stays the same. Okay, a lot of students have a problem with things magically disappearing. So don't do that. So again, 2 divided by 2, well, that's 1. Everything else stays the same. So try and remember that step. Everything else stays the same. Okay, and I'm going to simplify this a little bit. We don't need to write 1 times 3, and we don't need to write 1 times 2. So this can just be simplified by taking the 1 out. The reason why we don't need a 1 in there is because, 1 times 3 is 3. So we don't need to write that 1 in there. So 3 to the t again, where I'm going to write everything. I'm just going to simplify and write everything exactly the way it's shown. Things aren't magically going to disappear. Okay. So now we've simplified it. We found the GCF, pulled it out, put it on the outside of the parentheses. And this is what we have left. And as you can see, this would be our answer. So I'm noticing these in a lot of your practice problems. You're going to have to, number one, just, read the real world scenario, interpret information. And then I see a lot of this where you're taking 2 separate expressions or 2 separate equations and either adding and subtracting them. And then step 3, simplifying. And that simplifying part is the GCF. So again, if you're not familiar with it, you need some more practice, contact me or another math teacher, and we can certainly give you that practice. Okay. Hopefully this video was helpful. I would love any kind of feedback from you guys to improve these videos for your benefit. Okay, thank you.